Of all the games I own and play, one that I'll consistently come back to is Payday 2. There's something magical about robbing banks and fending off hordes of enemies. But in all my many hours in the game, there's one thing I've always wondered. Just how much loot is there in the entire game? Well, now that we know that there are no more heists being added into the game ever, that question can be definitively answered. But before I get started, I'd like to explain a little bit about how loot is calculated and how I'm going to be going about this. To start off, the higher the difficulty, the more loot you get, so this is all going to be done on the highest difficulty, Death Sentence. There are several different types of loot you can get. The first you get is the contract payment. This is just a flat amount you receive upon beating a heist. Next up there's bagged loot, which should be pretty obvious. It's the loot you bag up and take with you at the end of the heist. Some bagged loot is tagged as mission loot, meaning that until you fulfill the requirements for the heist, it'll be worth significantly less. This isn't very common, but I'll be sure to point it out when it happens. Then there's spending cash, which is all the stuff that you can loot in the heist that doesn't get bagged. And lastly, the crew alive bonus. This was meant to discourage hosts from kicking players at the end of the heist. You get a bonus for every human player that is out of custody at the end of each heist. Hey guys, Future Andrew here. I just wanted to make a quick correction. It turns out that one of my mods was screwing with the crew alive bonus, so I'm actually not going to be calculating that. Sorry for any confusion. I'll calculate all these loot types individually, but also have a final tally at the end. And now for the rules I've set myself for this challenge. Everything is going to be on the Death Sentence difficulty since that's where the most loot is, and it's also going to be solo. This is partly because I don't want to rely on other people for recording purposes, and also so I can normalize the crew alive bonus. I'll also be securing all bagged loot as that's kind of the point. However, an exception will be made if I have to secure multiple bags of loot under an infinite assault with little to no cover. Trust me, there's a reason for this, and I'll explain when I get there. But I'll still consider the missed bags of loot in my final calculations. Spending cash is optional, but I'll make a point to try to loot as much as I can. Loot from ATMs is also optional, but I wouldn't feel right just ignoring that, so any that I miss will be added into my final calculations. Lastly, in any heists with infinite loot, I'll only have to get the minimum required for escape. And lastly, I'd just like to quickly go over what mods I'm using. The first is Wolf HUD, which is why I have a bunch of information on my screen that you may not have. The next is Better Bots, which I know some people don't like, but there are a bunch of quality of life improvements to the AI in this mod that I find it borderline mandatory on higher difficulties. And I do have one other secret mod, which I'll get into when it becomes relevant. And with that, let's get started. Bank heist, cash. Every heister has to start somewhere, and what better place to start than a bank? Pretty simple as far as robberies go. First thing we did was snuck inside and killed the camera operator. Once the cameras were down, I was able to isolate and kill 2 of the remaining 3 guards. While waiting for the last guard to show himself, I decided to get the drill started on the vault. Soon after, my patience was rewarded and the last guard dies. Now I figure it's time to take over the bank entirely. I go around tying up every civilian I can and killing those I can't. Once that's done, I open up the 2 ATMs in the front of the building. From there, there's not really much to do until the drill is done, so I just have fun breaking things. But the drill does finish eventually, and I finally have access to the vault. I immediately begin sawing open the deposit boxes. Once that's done, I loot everything and bring it all to the van. Altogether, we ended up with 13 bags of money and a bunch of spending cash. Bank heist, gold. Back in the early days of Payday 2, the developers decided they needed to pad their mission count, so they made the same heist like 5 different times. Bank heist gold is the exact same as cash, except that instead of cash in the center of the deposit boxes, there's gold. I'm not going to waste any time going step by step because you literally just saw the same thing, so let's just skip to the end. In the end, I made it out with 6 bags of gold and 3 bags of cash. Bank heist, deposit. Let's just skip this one entirely, shall we? I made it out with 7 bags of cash, 3 bags of gold, and a bunch of instant cash. Bank heist, random. I'm sure you all know the deal by now. I made it out with 12 bags of cash, 1 bag of gold, and a bunch of instant cash. Jewelry store. Now that we've had our fill of banks for now, it's time to hit up this small jewelry store that has a lot of valuables but not a lot of security. Once I got into the back room, I picked the lock on the window to get outside and killed the guard guarding the alleyways. From there it was simple to just get back into the building, kill the remaining guard, and subdue the civilians in the back room. From there I mount a drill on the safe in the back room. I'm going to need access to it later. Now it's time to take over the store. I go around subduing all the civilians, tying the ones I can, killing the ones I can't. And while we wait for the drill, it's time to get looting. Once the drill finishes its thing, I'm able to collect 2 more bags of beautiful jewelry. All in all, I made it out with 9 bags of jewelry. Unfortunately, 8 of them were mission loot, meaning they were worth significantly less. Shadow Raid. Our weapons dealer, Gage, has tipped us off to a warehouse owned by the mercenary group Murky Water. Now, we want what's in this warehouse, however, we can't afford an all-out war with Murky Water, so we gotta be quiet for this one. First things first, I make my way to the top floor, grab the crowbar, break into the camera room, and kill the camera operator. He drops a keycard, so I grab it. I notice a crate inside a locked cage, so I mount a drill on there and wait. Inside the crate, I find some gold. From there, I continue clearing out the top floor and throwing all the loot onto the balcony just outside. At around the 5-minute mark, I take advantage of an exploit. See, if I stand right here, the helicopter that spawns will never have guards. Instead, it will always spawn a crate which will contain an artifact. Once that's all done, I get all my loot to the bottom and secure it via zipline. I then make my way into the warehouse's bottom floor to continue looting. I spot a guard, so I kill him. He drops a keycard, but of course they're just so heavy that you can't carry more than one at a time, so I leave it there for future use. After some more uneventful looting, I decide to search the yard. There are some shipping crates, and inside some of them have some bags of money, which I obviously want to take. And of course, we can't forget about that nice expensive artifact the helicopter dropped earlier. Now that the warehouse has been pretty much picked clean, it's time to check out that vault. That's where these 2 keycards come in. They have to be entered at just about the same time, but this one's close enough that I think we can handle it. Inside, we find the armor of the legendary samurai Oda Nobunaga. Not a bad find if you ask me. Now, I may have screwed up just a little trying to get this armor out of here. However, it wasn't a huge deal, and I ended up making it out just after the alarm sounded before the point of no return. Altogether, I found 1 server, 4 pieces of armor, 3 bags of gold, 4 bags of cocaine, 2 assault rifles, 7 bags of cash, 2 artifacts, and 1 painting. Go bank. Yep, we're back to robbing banks, but thankfully we're doing a different one this time. I forgot to hit the record button when I started, but as you can see, things got loud pretty quickly. This heist is not very friendly to solo stealthers, so I decided to go all shooty bang bang on this one. To sum up what you missed, I put the drill on the vault. Yeah, that's it. After a while, our pilot arrives with a skyhook, which is something we'll need to secure the loot later on. Naturally, I gather up all the pieces and then I build it on the roof of the bank. By then, the drill's finished doing its thing, so we get into the vault and I start working on those deposit boxes. Once that's done, I take all of that beautiful money and throw it into the skyhook. Once the money is safely in the skyhook, I raise the balloon to signal to our pilot that it's time to go. Fortunately, he manages to get it on the first go, so it's time to run through the sewers and escape. In the end, we made it out with 9 bags of money, a bunch of instant cash, and the loot from 2 ATMs which were in that section I forgot to record. Sorry. Oh yeah, and one of those bags was mission loot. Diamond store. You know, with all these places selling really expensive things, you'd think they'd hire more security. First order of business is to break into the camera room and kill the guard. I then went to the top floor via the back entrance and killed guard number 2. From there, it became a waiting game. First person to come across my sights was guard number 3. Then the manager, who had a keycard that I took. And finally, guard number 4. Then, I disabled the alarm with the keycard I got from the manager and took over the store, tying the civilians I could and killing those who I couldn't. Once that's done, I of course make sure not to forget to put a drill on the safe upstairs and in the auto shop next door. And now, we loot. Of course, we won't forget the 2 ATMs nearby. When all is said and done, we make it out with 18 bags of jewelry, though 14 of them were mission loot, and a lot of instant cash. Transport downtown. Our boss and mentor Bane got word of a few convoys of armored trucks patrolling through the DC area. We blew up a bridge in downtown Washington in order to ambush the first convoy. From there, the plan is simple: get some drills on the back of these trucks and wait. Everything went surprisingly smoothly once I realized that this taxi provides excellent cover all around. Once I had access to each truck, it just became a matter of opening up these deposit boxes. A little easier said than done, but I didn't have too much trouble. By the time I'd finished with that, the escape driver was already here, so I just had to move the money over to him. This was a lot easier said than done, and it went a little bit less smoothly. I ended up with 9 bags of cash, though 5 of them were mission loot, and a bunch of instant cash, which I ended up manually calculating because I was a dummy and messed up and didn't record the end section. Transport Crossroads. We hired a sniper for the next convoy, and with 4 shots he was able to disable 4 trucks. That's some excellent shooting if you ask me. From there, the plan is the same as before: drill the trucks and loot the boxes, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention how absolutely awful this experience was. There are a bunch of snipers, almost no good spots to camp out in, and the trucks are almost always angled in such a way that you can never really get any cover while opening the boxes. It may not look that bad in the video, but this heist cost me more restarts than any other in this entire challenge. In the end, we made it out with 10 bags of jewelry, 5 of which were mission loot, a bunch of instant cash, and 5 missed ATMs. Transport Harbor. For this next convoy, we were able to ambush them at the local harbor by hiding in one of the shipping crates. The concept is exactly the same as the other transport heist, so if you guys don't mind, I'll just skip to the end. This video is probably already long enough anyway. I made it out with 9 bags of cash, 5 of which were mission loot, and a bunch of instant cash. Transport Park. For this convoy, we blew the trucks off the road with explosives. Like last time, I'm just gonna skip to the end. Cool? We ended up with 9 bags of jewelry, 5 of which were mission loot, and a bunch of instant cash. Transport Underpass. We stole a couple of ambulances and faked an emergency to get the last convoy to stop. And just like last time, I'm gonna skip to the end. We made it out with 9 bags of gold, 5 of which were mission loot, and a bunch of instant cash. Transport Train. In one of the armored cars, we found a very intriguing set of military blueprints. After some digging, we discovered that a civilian train was going to be carrying the prototype RC-1 automated turret. My first course of action was to take care of a few roaming guards and civilians around the warehouse. From there, I just had to break into the train. I figured this door was far enough out of the way to risk using a drill. In the second compartment, I found a vault. It didn't have the turret, but it did have its ammunition, so I plugged the hard drive in to get it hacked open. An extra security buffer kicked in, but that was nothing I couldn't solve by messing around with a random circuit breaker. Before long, the hack was complete, so I retrieved the hard drive and plugged it into vault number 2. While that was working, I got to bagging and moving the ammunition. Vault number 2 did have the turret, but I kinda want the ammunition in vault number 3 as well, so I got that hack started while I went to secure the turret. Now let's fast forward a bit. I opened the last vault, secured the turret, and moved most of the ammunition when I made an oopsie. The alarm sounded, but most of the work was already done, so let's just roll with it. There were a few close calls, but in the end we made it out scot-free. In the process, we collected 3 turret parts and 20 bags of ammunition. Mall Crasher. With all our recent antics, people are starting to pay attention to us. We got a new contact, Russian mobster by the name of Vlad. This local mall hasn't been paying the protection fees, so he hired us to cause a little bit of mayhem. The plan is simple: break things. Make it clear to them that it'll cost more to not pay the protection fees. My first stop is the jewelry store because, well, I'm in it for the money. I don't focus too much on the vandalism because the ensuing firefight is going to break enough things anyway. Instead, I focus on bagging loot and opening safes because I know one of them has money. Fast forward a bit and I actually found the money while waiting for the helicopter to come pick us up. We had to hang out like this for a few more minutes, but there weren't any issues. In the end, we made it out with 3 bags of jewelry, 1 bag of cash, and I missed 6 ATMs. 4 stores. Here's another case of Vlad not getting his protection money. This time he wants us to steal from the stores, just to show that he's gonna get his money one way or another. This isn't about money, it's about sending a message, so he's letting us keep anything we take. I figured the silent approach would get the point across a little bit better, so I started methodically taking over each one of the stores. The pottery store had a guard, but one look at my weapon and he surrendered like the coward he is. I scared some people when I broke a window in the cafe, but I was able to recover. The convenience store was simple. One worker, one camera, and no customers. The electronics store was a little trickier, so I just dropped an ECM jammer and took over the entire thing by force. After a little bit of waiting, the van arrived and we were free to go. In the end, we made it out with... actually almost nothing. Don't do this heist. White Christmas. Vlad's starting to trust and respect us, so when his dumbass brother-in-law got drunk and crashed a plane full of cocaine, we're the ones he called. As anyone who's ever been to a frat party will tell you, drunk people are basically invincible, so he was fine. While I was waiting for him to make his way up to the lumberyard, I searched around for some of the cocaine he lost. I should note that this is the first heist we come across that will spawn loot indefinitely. That means that as per my rules, all this loot is actually optional, but I still decided to get some anyway. Once we got Drunky McDrunkface to the lumberyard, I lit a flare to signal the escape helicopter. And once again, because drunk people are invincible, he didn't need protection as much as motivation. Once the pilot's safely on the helicopter, we light a flare for our own extraction. Once that arrives, we escape with 3 bags of pure cocaine, which yes, are actually worth more than regular cocaine. Ukrainian Job. So there's this other Russian mobster, Dmitry, who stabbed Vlad in the back a few years ago. But see, Vlad doesn't want him dead, he wants him miserable. Dmitry's engaged to this Ukrainian girl who's known to be a bit of a diva. She just has to have this custom-made tiara for her big day, so we're gonna make sure that doesn't happen. You notice that I haven't really been narrating my actions throughout this heist, and that's because it's pretty much identical to the jewelry store we hit earlier. I don't want to waste your time with anything redundant, so I'll just let you know that we made it out with 3 bags of jewelry and a bunch of instant cash. Vlad even let us keep the tiara. Meltdown. Remember that murky water facility we cleaned out a while back? Well, they have something that Vlad wants. He's not telling us what it is, but he's willing to pay top dollar for us to retrieve it. They've upped their security since the last time, so sneaking it's not an option. The vault with Vlad's special item has a safety feature where if it gets too hot inside, it'll immediately open up. So naturally, I shoved a crowbar into the ventilation system. As I was waiting for the vault to overheat, I scoured the facility for any more loot I could find. There was quite a lot of gold. So eventually we managed to get into the vault and we find freaking nukes. So I don't know about you, but I really don't trust Vlad with nuclear warheads, but he is paying us a lot of money. So I take the warheads and the additional loot over to the warehouse gates, and guess what I found? Gaddafi's Longfellow. Yeah, we're taking this with us. Unfortunately, it can only hold 4 bags at a time, but that's not a huge issue. A short drive later, and we come across a train that Vlad set up to store our loot. A few trips later, we have everything safely secured on the train. In the end, we made it out with 8 warheads, 6 bags of gold, 1 bag of money, and 1 bag of coke. Aftershock. A short time later, we get a call from Vlad saying that there's been an earthquake in LA and we need to get there right now. A couple of his armored trucks got damaged and he did not want the cops poking around. The plan was simple: find the trucks, saw them open, and safely extract the product. Inside the truck, there were safes filled with gun skins. Yeah, you can imagine how popular that was. Once we got these open, Bane sent us some C4 so we could get into a nearby abandoned lot. A short explosion later, and we now have a truck to transport all these safes. After a quick but painful drive, we were able to get the truck over to the abandoned lot. Now all we had to do was hold out until our escape arrived. It took a while because the police kept trying to commandeer his helicopter for emergency evacs, but he got here eventually. We ended up taking the entire truck with us, and with that, we were home free. In the end, we made it out with 12 safes. Nightclub. As it turns out, Vlad's not done messing with Dmitry. This time he wants us to break into the nightclub he owns and steal the money that he keeps locked away in a safe. Now, I may or may not have forgotten to record the beginning of this heist, but the important part is we got in and we found 2 separate safes. After a little bit of waiting, we were able to open the 2 safes, one of which contained the money, and one of which contained a stash of cocaine. After a little more waiting, we had a courier come to a nearby alley to collect the loot. Afterwards, I may have jumped the gun just a little bit while waiting for the escape van. However, despite my spectacular blunder, we were able to make it out relatively unscathed. In the end, we made it out with 2 bags of money, both of which were mission loot, and 6 bags of cocaine. Stealing Christmas. Remember our favorite alcoholic pilot? Well, this time he got drunk again and hid some cocaine throughout the local mall. He kinda fell asleep and we need that cocaine, so we did the natural thing and punched him in the face. As he was drunkenly trying to remember where he hid the cocaine, we went to the local electronics store and began cleaning it out. We found some cash and a safe in the back room. Not a bad find. We learned that the first parcel of cocaine was locked in the back room, so we started to work on drilling that open. We found our present and stored it along with our other loot underneath the Christmas tree. The next one was in the toy store. This one was actually pretty easy to find because it was actually inside the first present I opened up. The final bag was located in the jewelry store, which, let's be honest, we were going to hit that anyway. A short hack later, and all of our packages were secure. Now it's time for the escape, but let's be honest, we're not going to be able to get out the front door, so we light a flare and call the chopper. He drops us some explosives which we then plant along the skylight, and then... boom! Vlad then decides that he wants the Christmas tree. We're not really in a position to argue right now, so we just listen to what he says. The chopper pulled us out, and we were able to escape with 6 bags of jewelry, 3 bags of cash, and a decent amount of instant cash. Watchdogs. All our work with Vlad's paid off, and we finally got a contact with the Colombian cartel, Hector Morales. Hector's been wanting to establish a foothold in DC for a while now, so he hired us to protect his very first shipment of coke. Well, wouldn't you know it, somehow the cops found out and we got ambushed. Distribution's gonna have to wait. For now, we just need to protect the product. We hunkered down in a nearby building until Hector could send another vehicle. Then it was just a matter of moving the cocaine from here to there. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, that was a little easier said than done. And by the way, I meant to miss all those shots right there. But despite our difficulties, I was able to make it through and got every single bag of cocaine to the drop-off point. Our escape driver came in hot and he was getting shot at pretty heavily, but we were able to get out before he died. We may have gotten out with the cocaine and our lives, but we're not quite done yet. We got the cocaine away from the ambush, but now we need to secure it for good. Fortunately, Hector had a plan. We headed to the nearby docks and he was going to send a boat to come collect the loot from us. The boat could only hold 4 bags of cocaine at a time, so unfortunately we have to wait for another trip. The boat came back a second time and we were able to load 4 more bags of cocaine again. He said he was going to come back for the last 4, but we decided that it was getting a little too hairy, so instead we just took it with us onto the helicopter. We delivered it to Hector personally later. In the end, we made it out with 12 bags of cocaine, though 4 of them were mission loot. Firestarter. I gotta say, Hector was impressed. Now he wants us to move against a rival gang, the Mendozas. Most effective way to do that is with a 2-pronged attack. Hit them in their firepower and their finances. Our first order of business was to raid this airfield. The Mendozas keep a lot of weapons here. Hector just wants us to get rid of them. He doesn't care if we destroy them or take them, as long as they can't have them. Naturally, since we liked money, we decided to take them. We even found a bag of cash inside the main building. At the end of the day, we made it out with 11 assault rifles and 1 bag of cash. Next up, we have to hit the Mendozas in their wallets. Hector tells us that they keep almost all their money in one single location, but he doesn't really know where that is. That's not particularly helpful, but Bane finds out that the Mendozas are currently being investigated by the FBI, so now all we have to do is break into an FBI branch office and search through their records. After some sleuthing by me and some hacking by Bane, we were able to locate the server room and disable the alarms. Once I got in, it was a pretty simple matter to just take the servers and bring them back to the van. I also couldn't help but loot the evidence locker while I was at it. I did make a little bit of an oopsie trying to get the second server out of there, but it was nothing I couldn't recover from. At the end of the day, in addition to the 2 servers, we made it out with 2 bags of cash and a goat for some reason. After searching through the servers, we found out that the Mendozas are actually keeping their cash in the vault of a Harvest and Trustee bank. As you know, I've already robbed 4 of these places, so I'm not going to really bore you too much with the details. The only noticeable difference is that the Mendozas had electrified the vault, so I had to go to the roof and cut the power before I started drilling. Aside from that, it went pretty much as you'd expect. We got into the vault with no problems and burned the Mendoza's cash to dust. In the end, in addition to the other loot we got, we were able to escape with 4 bags of cash and a bunch of instant cash. Rats. After we crippled the Mendoza cartel, Hector found out that they took a deal with the FBI and they're going to be ferried out of the country very soon. The Cobra Street Gang offered to sell Hector the information as to where the Mendozas are being held, but it wouldn't come cheap. Instead of money, they wanted a ton of meth. Hector quickly hired a couple of cooks and asked us to protect them while they did their thing. Unfortunately, by the time we got there, the Mendozas had already killed them. Time was really not on our side with this one, so we decided to go make the product ourselves. So I ran around collecting ingredients while Bane googled how to cook meth. Despite the fact that nobody really knew what we were doing, the first batch was a success, so we decided we were going to keep going until we ran out of ingredients. Fast forward a bit, and we actually had enough ingredients for 7 bags of meth. Once we finished cooking, we decided it was time to get out. At the end of the day, we made it out with 7 bags of meth, but we can't add that to our total just yet. Wouldn't you know it, as we were trying to run away from the cops, our escape driver crashed the van. Escape stages are something that can randomly happen after finishing certain heists on Loud, and this just happened to happen after Rat's Day 1. Interestingly, in this entire challenge, this is the only escape I had to do. The concept is pretty simple, you just have to defend your loot until the escape arrives and then secure it. And that is exactly what happened. Not much more to say about it. We contacted the Cobras to let them know that we were coming, and they actually told us they were willing to buy the extra meth we made. Once we delivered all 7 bags of meth to the back of their pickup truck, they directed us to a nearby apartment building. Once we were up there, they gave us the intel and 4 bags of cash. Now, a bag of meth is worth about 10 times as much as a bag of cash, so they were seriously shortchanging us. And you know what? I really don't like being shortchanged. So, we simply decided to steal the meth back from them. At the end of the day, we made it out with 4 bags of money and 7 bags of meth. Now, the Cobras may have tried to screw us over financially, but their intel was good. We were actually able to interrupt the Mendozas on their way to the airport. We made short work of them, and when we searched the bus, we found out that they were actually taking the last of their cash with them. Finders keepers, I guess. Bane quickly called in another pilot, and we were able to get the loot secured. At the end of the day, we made it out with an additional 11 bags of cash. Big oil. You know, I never thought we'd stoop this low, but it's time to enter the world of politics. So this politician called the Elephant tells us that the scientist has discovered something revolutionary, cold fusion. Now that would be great and all, but some of the Elephant's buddies have a lot of money invested in the oil industry. So this scientist, a guy by the name of Mr. Rossi, has some ties to the Overkill MC biker gang. We figured they've got a membership list somewhere in their hideout, so we go and raid the place. After 2 ECM jammers and a few well-placed bullets, we were able to clear out the entire place without an alarm. While we waited for our drills to finish, I decided to go into the basement and open up some of the ATMs they had stolen. I also took an assault rifle that I found inside the clubhouse. After a little bit of waiting, we found the address of Mr. Rossi. We also ended up finding some airplane keys, so we took them with us just in case. At the end of the day, we made it out with 1 assault rifle and a whole bunch of instant cash. Now it's time to move against Mr. Rossi. I sneak into his house and I pretty quickly find a server room. While Bane works on overriding the security system, I decide to look around for some extra intel on the cold fusion system. That doesn't go so well. So now the cops are coming, but that's nothing I haven't dealt with before. So we finally get into the lab and wow, that's a lot of engines. I did some sleuthing, and though I'm no scientist, I figured this was probably the correct engine. After a short wait, the helicopter came to collect the engine. A few minutes later, Bane tells us that we got the correct engine. So it's time to get my big brain home. We were able to use those plane keys we stole, so we didn't have to wait for our pilot to come back. At the end of the day, we just made out with a little bit of extra instant cash. Framing frames. Alright, so now the Elephant wants us to directly take down one of his political opponents. There are rumors that this guy is involved in some very illegal arms deals, but we couldn't find any solid proof. So instead, we decided to frame him for a different crime. After a little bit of digging, we found out that this politician is very interested in hiring somebody to steal some paintings from this local art museum. So Bane gets the brilliant idea to take the job and attach some hidden cameras to the paintings. We make a little extra cash, and we got our own private surveillance system inside this guy's home. So we're sneaking around and we find 9 paintings that this senator is willing to buy. At the end of the day, we make it out with these 9 paintings, but we're not allowed to add it to our tally because we're not keeping them. The next day is simple enough that it's barely even worth mentioning. We just simply made the trade with the senator's people, 1 bag of cash for every painting. We were absolutely shortchanged, but the point was not to make money, it was to get the paintings in the senator's house. At the end of the day, we encountered no resistance and made it out with 9 bags of cash. So here's where things get interesting. Our plan is simple: get inside the senator's house, plant some drugs, and make an anonymous tip to the police. First order of business is to hunt around, steal some of his electronics so we can get into his security systems. While doing that, I found and stole a stash of rare old wine. I'm sorry, I won't do that again. Turns out we didn't actually even get any money from securing it, but I still got it, I guess. And I got to make a dumb joke that almost none of you are gonna understand. But once I got all the electronics, I just had to set everything up on the roof and we got quick and easy access to the senator's security systems. Now for the fun part. I took a whole bunch of cocaine and planted it in front of the senator's personal vault. Who has a personal vault? Once that was done, I just had to see what was inside the vault. Turns out it's a bunch of gold. I'm taking this. At the end of the day, we made it out with 8 bags of gold. Election day. So the elephant's got a crony by the name of Bob McKendrick running for mayor of DC. If we're being honest, things aren't looking too good for him in the polls. The elephant wants us to make sure he wins, so first we need to figure out where the voting machines are being held. A quick search through this warehouse's computers and a little bit of deduction on my part, and I'm able to figure out which truck is holding the voting machines. All that was left was to put a tracker on it, and then we were home free. Now here's where things get interesting. We found out that the voting machines were being held on a warehouse in Goose Island. All we have to do is find them, open them up, inject a little bit of malicious code, and our boy McKendrick is all but guaranteed the mayorship. I also found a little bit of money in the warehouse too, so I took it. We got the hacks done with no problem, and the elephant was very impressed that we were able to get it done with no alarms. He left us some gold as a bonus. In the end, we made it out with 7 bags of gold and 6 bags of cash. Election Day, Plan C. So the developers did something really cool with Election Day that they never replicated. Day 2 can be entirely different depending on Day 1. So the first step to getting that is to tag the wrong truck. Since we never found out where the machines were actually held, we have to mess with them on Election Day itself. Fortunately, there's a bank right next to one of the major polling stations, so we can disguise this as a robbery. After using a homemade virus to simulate a hard drive failure, we blew a hole open in the bank and got to work on the vault. Inside there was a little bit of money and some deposit boxes, but really not that much. In the end, we made it out with 3 bags of money, though unfortunately 2 of them were mission loot, a decent amount of instant cash, and I missed 2 ATMs. Big bank.
I'm not into politics.
Oh, but Mr. Steele, I hear quite the opposite. Or should I call you Dallas?
This man who currently has a scalpel to Dallas's throat is known as the Dentist. He's a giant in the criminal underworld, and he might even have more connections than Bane. Fortunately today, he comes as a friend. You see, our crew member Hoxton is actually in jail right now. He got pinched a little while back. The Dentist tells us that if we do some work for him, he'll help us get our buddy back. And of course, we'll also stand to make a bunch of money. But first, a test. The Benevolent Bank. Nobody's ever successfully robbed the Benevolent, and not for a lack of trying. The Dentist's given us free rein on this one, he just wants to see how we operate. I start out trying to stealth, but that doesn't really last too long. Alright, let's kill some fools. But first, we got a brand new drill just for this occasion, and it's currently in a piggy bank on a crane outside. So I get up to the crane, operate the controls, and wait. Yep, it's about as exciting as it sounds.
Pull the lever, Crunk. Wrong lever!
I can't possibly explain to you how happy I am that I get to make that edit. Anyway, back to business. I access the server room and attempt to override their systems. But as it turns out, I end up needing access to one of the workers' computers. Unfortunately, when solo, it's impossible to tell which is the correct computer. But with some guesswork, I'm able to get into the correct computer and find the time lock code. Unfortunately, there was an extra layer of security, but that was pretty easily bypassed. After finishing up the time lock, we took our beast of a drill over to the vault and got it set up. After a little bit more waiting, we did what nobody else had done before. Cracked the vault of the Benevolent. I grabbed a little bit of loot and then went to let our driver know that he could come and make an entrance. From there, I started working on those deposit boxes a bit. Before long, we'd completely cleaned the place out. At the end of the day, we made it out with 4 bags of gold, 19 bags of cash, and a whole lot of instant cash. Hotline Miami. Now that we've proven ourselves, the dentist is ready to help us get Hoxton back. He has a plan, but for it to work, he needs the cooperation of the district attorney. Unfortunately, the district attorney is already under the thumb of a Russian mobster known as the Commissar. As long as the Commissar is offering protection, the district attorney isn't budging. So that means we need to kill the Commissar. But before we can do that, we need to figure out where he is. The plan is simple: cause a bunch of mayhem and give him a phone number. When he calls the phone number to yell at us, we track his location. So what we do is we go to a motel owned by the Commissar, destroy a bunch of cars, blow up the gas station, and break into a basement that he has hidden under a rug. Using the tracer, we were able to narrow down his location to downtown Washington, but we needed to be a little more specific. Fortunately, we were able to cross-reference some shipping labels with a computer we found in the basement. But even though we now know where we're going, we couldn't leave just yet. You see, not only are there a bunch of goodies scattered around, we found a meth lab. And since we are now experts at cooking meth, we decided to make a little bit of extra profit. At the end of the day, we made it out with 3 bags of money, 3 assault rifles, and 6 bags of meth. So it turns out the Commissar was held up in an abandoned apartment building. We smuggled ourselves in via some shipping containers and went to assault him directly. Unfortunately, he managed to escape into an elevator just as we got into the building. Eventually, after going through this maze of a building, we reached the top floor and found that the Commissar had locked himself up in his vault. While waiting for a thermal drill, we went and collected some money from a guy with a bomb vest. I don't know why he's here, I don't know why he has a bomb strapped to his chest, but, you know, we saved his life, he has money. Fair trade. From there, it was simple enough to drill through the vault and let the cops kill the Commissar. And then, we escaped by helicopter, but of course we took some of the Commissar's stuff as compensation for the trouble he caused us. At the end of the day, we made it out with 5 bags of money and 6 bags of coke. Hoxton Breakout. Now it's time to get our buddy back. With a little persuasion from the dentist, the district attorney was able to organize a retrial for Hoxton. Now, there's absolutely no chance that he was going to get a good verdict out of that because he's, well, really guilty. But we weren't looking for a not guilty verdict, we were looking for a chance to ambush the guards. We brought Hoxton up to a waiting armored truck, and from there, all that was left was to get him through the police blockade. Fast forward a bit, and we were able to get him all the way to the parking garage. Once inside, we were almost home free, but the bollards were up, so we had to search for the control room. We found it before too long, and after dealing with the bulldozer that just decided to chill there for a bit, we were able to hack into the computer. Once that's done, we stripped the armor off the car, and we're home free. But we're going to be making a slight detour at Hoxton's request. Hoxton had a lot of time to think while he was in prison, and one of the things he learned during that time was that there's no way the police could have caught him on their own. Someone in the crew, or close to it, was a rat. Now obviously if there's a traitor, we want to know who it is so we can get even. So we do the logical thing and raid the FBI's main headquarters. While Hoxton's casually hacking the FBI, we search the archive room, find a sample of the traitor's DNA, and obtained some encryption keys from the nearby security office. Hoxton was able to get all the info they had on us and put it onto a single server that we took with us. In the meantime, our escape driver managed to steal an FBI van, so we were able to escape without a hitch. And this heist holds the distinction of being the first in this video to not have any additional loot. Hoxton Revenge. Our efforts paid off. We weren't able to find out who the traitor is, but we found out that the FBI is holding them in one of their safe houses. A betrayal like this can only end one way, so it doesn't even really matter who it is. First order of business, break into the house and disable the alarms. The FBI had some evidence against us in there, so Bain said he'd pay us for every bag we were able to take out. Before long, we found the panic room and also the director of the FBI. I tied him up and got him to use the retinal scanner on the vault. I also scoured the house and found 2 keycards used to open the panic room. After a short wait, it was time to find out who the traitor was. It was none other than Hector Morales. So this is how he pays us back for getting him into power. With that taken care of, there's not much left to do now except to secure the remaining evidence. At the end of the day, we made it out with 8 bags of evidence. The diamond. Well, I'd say with Hoxton back, the dentist has more than satisfied his end of the bargain, so now it's time to fulfill ours. But first, another test. The dentist said that the benevolent was just to see if we were worth his time. This is to see if we're actually up for the job he wants us to do. Now we have to break into the McKendrick Museum and steal the diamond. Not a diamond, the diamond. And while we're at it, there's no reason not to steal a bunch of valuable artifacts. But first things first, we gotta find a couple circuit boxes and disable the security lasers. I also took this time to secure as many artifacts as possible. Then we had a couple time locks to deal with, but those weren't too difficult once I had a keycard. After that, the alarm ended up going off, but I was planning on setting it off anyway because I hate doing the puzzle. Now, there are two things you should know about this puzzle. First of all, on higher difficulties, you have almost no time to memorize the patterns. Secondly, the bots will actually trip the traps anyway, so it's not even worth doing. So I just set it off immediately instead of even trying. All that really means is that I have to wait for another drill to finish before I can actually take the diamond. Once that was done, all we had to do was grab the remaining artifacts and get out. At the end of the day, we made it out with 14 artifacts and the diamond. Golden Grin Casino. This heist is the reason the dentist contacted us in the first place. He tells us that he wants a special item they keep in their vault and that we'll know when we see it. In addition to paying us, he's letting us just keep everything we find. First things first, we gotta get our gear. We had an insider hide it in a guitar case near the building. I tried to be sneaky at first, but that didn't really go so well. Once it went loud, there were a few things I needed to do, but it doesn't matter when I do them. First thing I did was get into the security room and disable the security blockers. I also searched around a bit for pieces of the armory's key code. Once I had the code, I got into the armory and took some C4. Then I blew open the floor in front of the vault and I just had to wait for Bile to drop pieces of a winch. I also lit some fireworks to signal a pilot that we're going to need a little bit later. Fast forward a little bit, and Pilot A dropped the winch which we used to secure the BFD, which is a new, powerful tool we're using, which was brought in by Pilot B. Fast forward a little more, and we make it into the vault. And there is a lot of money here. And now, skipping past the whole loot bagging process, we go and find this weird Illuminati box. And now, because I assume you don't want to watch me move 30 bags of loot, I'm going to skip ahead again. At the end of the day, we made it out with 28 bags of money, 1 painting, and that weird Illuminati box thing. Art gallery. Alright, so I figured this is as good a spot as any to do all the heists that either don't fit anywhere specifically in the storyline or are just straight up non-canon. Also, because this video is already over 40 minutes long, I'm going to start going lightning round on this. You've already seen this in Framing Frame, so I'm going to skip to the end. We made it out with 9 paintings, although 6 of them were mission loot. Cook-off. This is just Rats Day 1. However, because this heist has infinite loot, we only have to get the minimum to escape. You've seen this before, so I'm skipping to the end. At the end of the day, we made it out with 3 bags of meth. Safehouse Raid. This is just a static defense heist where the cops find out where our safe house is, so they raid. We just have to protect the money. There's not really much to see here, so I'm just going to skip to the end. This heist has no additional loot and a pretty pitiful payout if you ask me. Holdout. This is another static defense heist where the longer you survive, the more money you make, but the harder it gets. One thing of note is that every week, a different set of mutators is applied to the Holdout heist. When I did it, the 2 mutators were that every SWAT gets replaced with a heavy SWAT and enemies cannot be staggered from damage. This heist has no additional loot, but if you make it to the last wave, you get the highest contract payment in the game. Safehouse Nightmare. This one is literally Wolf's Nightmare. This is obviously non-canon. In this heist there are actually only 2 enemy types, Cloakers and the new Headless Titan Dozers, which really suck. I'm gonna skip ahead because you've seen me drilling into a vault before. At the end of the day, we made it out with 4 bags of money. Unfortunately, all of them were mission loot. Lab Rats. This heist is actually really fun on lower difficulties, but it sucks at higher difficulties. Oh yeah, and this is another non-canon heist. Basically, we're tiny and we're making meth. Make sense? I'm gonna skip ahead to the end, but I want you to know how painful this was. I could only get through by hard abusing all the most overpowered skills in the game. Doing this heist solo is not what I'd recommend if you want to have fun. And even though the loot is called meth, I'm going to refer to it as mini-meth because it's actually worth less than regular meth. At the end of the day, we made it out with 4 bags of mini-meth. Prison Nightmare. Next up we have what's probably my favorite Halloween heist overkill I've ever done. Basically you have to play the world's worst game of Wheel of Fortune to see what terrible things the heist is going to throw at you. This is another heist with infinite loot, so we're only going to be focused on the escape, but the cool thing about this is that keycard can be used to either get loot or to get out. I know I'm skipping through a lot, but as I said, I'm trying to get through the rest of this video in a relatively timely manner. But even though my focus is on escaping, I couldn't help but take the legendary Almir's Toast. All this heavy loot at the end was basically meant to bait people into failing the heist, but Swansong OP. In the end, we made it out with Almir's Toast. Cursed Kill Room. So this Halloween heist is actually a pretty cool take on the training ground minigame in the Safehouse. It's basically the training ground, but enemies are shooting at you, and you can get loot. There is a 5-minute timer, but if you go to the cloaker safes, which are continually spawning static defense points, the timer will pause. If you manage to stay in the area long enough, it'll spawn some cloaker cocaine, and you can move on to the next safe. I did this once, but then I decided I didn't really want to make this heist go any longer, so I let the timer run out. Whoosh, time skip. At the end of the day, we made it out with 4 bags of cloaker cocaine. The bomb, Dockyard. We got a new source of weapons, a Croatian arm dealer named the Butcher. She wants to establish a foothold in the US, so she hired us to steal a really big bomb. First I found some keycards and opened up the gate blocking the harbor. Then we called the captain of the ship and told him he was free to dock. I worked on looting the compound while waiting for the ship to move. Once I got onto the ship, I started searching the shipping containers. I ended up finding a meth lab in one of the shipping containers, and what do you do when you find a meth lab in an enclosed metal box? You cook meth, of course. At the end of the day, we made it out with 4 bomb parts, 2 bags of money, 3 bags of coke, 1 bag of gold, and 2 bags of meth. The bomb forest. So this is what would have happened if we decided not to get the bomb at the dockyard and instead decided to waylay the train. The level designers were like, yo dog, I heard you like snipers and a lack of cover, so we made a heist that's entirely snipers and a lack of cover. I was a little worried about this heist because of the sniper spawns and lack of cover, but ultimately it worked out fine. A lot of the terrain and assets in this heist are tilted or at some sort of weird angle, and to be honest, the game's engine can't really handle that. Because of that, I was able to camp out in this cool little spot underneath a train, and the cops really couldn't get to me unless they got to a very specific angle. I also got a surprisingly low number of loot spawns, so that made things significantly easier. At the end of the day, we made it out with 4 bomb parts, 1 bag of gold, and 1 bag of coke. Scarface Mansion. So apparently in the Payday universe, the Scarface movie actually happened. The Sosa cartel has been messing with the Butcher, so she hired us to teach them a lesson. A cool thing about this heist is that the guards outside don't actually have any pagers, so you can just shotgun them into the ocean. Let's fast forward just a little bit. We made it inside and the Butcher wants us to kill Ernesto Sosa and steal his stuff. Inside the safe he has a bunch of money and yayo, but I'm just gonna call it cocaine because it is literally exactly the same as cocaine from the weight to the appearance to the value. My HUD mod even identifies it as coke. Unfortunately, the drop-off spawned on the other side of the map, so I had to be a bag monkey for a bit, but it's not too bad. At the end of the day, we made it out with 8 bags of money and 8 bags of coke. Alesso Heist. This heist was a collaboration between Overkill and the DJ Alesso. The main draw for this heist is that Alesso actually wrote and produced the music that plays during it. However, it kind of falls a bit flat because, quite frankly, Simon Viklund is a better musician than Alesso. I'm not going to be playing Alesso's track during this video because it's a copyright strike magnet, but you've heard all the music in this video. It's all from Simon Viklund, and it is straight fire. The end result was that Overkill paid this big famous DJ to make a song for them that was worse than what they already had. It's certainly not a bad song, but it's nowhere near as good as Simon Viklund's stuff. You'll also notice that you've been watching a sped up clip for a while. That's because I wanted to highlight another problem I have with this heist. It's just slow, especially in stealth. This section is just 3 minutes of sitting there with an occasional input. You know what? I'm not even going to show you the whole thing. Let's just skip to the end. At the end of the day, we made it out with 18 bags of money. Counterfeit. During the lifespan of Payday 2, Overkill had recreated all the heists from the first game and put them into the second game. Counterfeit is one of those heists. This heist is pretty cool because you can actually stealth a portion of it even though it is loud only. I personally find this heist to be one of the more fun ones to hold out on because you're not forced to camp in just one single spot. Of course, you eventually do get to the point where you open up the safe and collect the counterfeit plates. However, unlike Payday the Heist, you can actually print counterfeit money in Payday 2. However, it's not required and it's also an infinite process, so I'm not going to be doing it for this heist. It's also not really worth doing after getting the achievement because the money is not really worth much. At the end of the day, we made it out with some instant cash from the safe, but no bagged loot. First World Bank. I'm going to be honest with you, this one was a test of my patience. And it's not because I don't enjoy the first heist of the first game, in fact, quite the opposite. However, this is where I used that special mod I mentioned earlier. You see, in the first game, Overkill had this really in-depth puzzle, and the reward was a hidden vault inside the First World Bank. They included this vault in Payday 2, so if I want to figure out how much loot there is in the entire game, I kinda have to go through with it. However, you actually need 4 people to activate the drill spot. So what I did is I installed a mod that allows me to activate the drill spot solo. I still fought back the cops while waiting for that 33-minute drill timer, and I still moved 70 goddamn bags of gold. I want you to feel my pain a little bit here. So I skipped over the beginning section of this heist to start the video clip at when I placed the drill. I also cranked it up to 10 times speed. I still can't show you the entire thing without chopping it up because it'll be too long. It took me just under 2 hours to get this whole thing done and I wanted to die. I really don't recommend doing this solo. At the end of the day, I made it out with 14 bags of money, though 8 of them were mission loot, 70 bags of gold, and I missed 6 ATMs. Murky Station. So next up we have a stealth-only heist that's part of a crossover between Payday and Hardcore Henry, which is a very underrated movie in my opinion. In these next 2 heists, the Payday crew is working to stop the villain of Hardcore Henry from taking over the world. I'm not going to explain because I don't want to spoil the movie. But in Payday 2, we're contracted by Jimmy, one of the supporting characters of Hardcore Henry, and we're tasked with stealing an EMP from Murky Water. There are 4 train cars with loot, 2 of them have EMP parts, and 2 of them have weapons. There are 2 types of weapons, pistols and battle rifles, but because they're worth the same, I'm actually going to collapse them into one category. For this heist and in the final tally, I'm going to call them murky weapons, because they don't show up in any other heist. Let's fast forward a bit to the point where in the end, we made it out with 2 EMP parts and 14 murky weapons. Boiling point. In this heist, we're using the EMP to assault a Russian, not really military base, but military base. This is where bad boy Akan is doing his supervillain shit. This heist is kinda cool because even though there's only 1 bag of loot you can actually influence the value of that bag. Basically, there are 4 dead superhumans lying around. The more you scan, the more the loot is worth. And of course, you know I scanned all 4. I wouldn't do you like that. In the end, we made it out with 1 master server. Goat Simulator. I hate this heist, I hate it so much, there are so many things you have to move through so many dangerous areas with so little cover, and I hate it. When I was recording the footage for this video, this heist took so many hours from me that I will never get back. You know what? Let's just skip to the end. I don't even want to remember doing this. There, day 1 complete. And you know what? I'm not even going to properly commentate over day 2. Nope, 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 nope. Made it out with 15 goats, now fuck off, Vlad. Car Shop. For those of you who don't know, Payday 2 runs on the Diesel 2 engine, which was originally designed for racing games. When it was released, Car Shop was actually really hyped because it was going to be the first heist in the game to feature driving mechanics. That lasted about 10 minutes before people realized how awful the driving mechanics actually are. None of the driving in this game is very good, but Car Shop stands out as being particularly bad. That's not to mention that the heist is essentially stealth only, it wasn't tagged as stealth on release, and you can't get a stealth bonus. Oh yeah, and a vehicle's max speed is actually determined by your FPS, so good luck if you're a low-spec gamer. Yeah, because I'm solo, I was only able to escape with 1 vehicle. Biker Heist. So this is actually a really fun heist that amusingly features worse driving mechanics than Car Shop. Basically, Overkill hired Ron Perlman to voice a character in the game and they needed an excuse for it. Ron Perlman's character is a biker, and what's a biker without his bike? So we have to get Rust's bike back from the biker gang he betrayed. It's pretty fun having the mechanic fix up the bike while grabbing all the loot all around the area. Let's fast forward ahead a bit because I don't want to waste any more of your time. We made it out with 4 assault rifles, and my HUD tells me there were 5 bags of coke, though I scoured the place and could not find 2 of them. But I'll include them in the final tally. Alright, so Biker Heist Day 2 is the reason I added that caveat about what loot I had to get. This map is linear, with assault rifles that are heavy, and it's an endless assault. It simply isn't practical for a solo player to get all this loot on death sentence. I'm sorry for leaving the weapons behind, but if I didn't, this video would not have come out. I would never have finished this challenge. In the end, I made it out with a BCI helmet, and I will include those 7 weapons I left behind. Panic Room. Panic Room is another remake from the first game, and it's notable because instead of breaking into a vault, we steal the vault. Fun fact for any all-loot enthusiasts like myself, the cops don't actually show up until you kill Chavez, so you can loot the entire place without dealing with any police. This heist is really fun and really well designed, but I'm not going to go too deep into it. Looking back, the step-by-step narration I was doing at the beginning of the video really wasn't the right decision. But I'm not going to go back and re-record the beginning because honestly I've put way too many hours into this video already. So with that being said, skip! Okay, I was going to have a sound clip of Jeremy from CinemaSins saying skip, but I'm too lazy to go search through his videos to see where he said that, so just imagine it. At the end of the day, we made it out with 8 bags of coke and 1 giant toothbrush. Brooklyn 1010. Here we have another crossover, this time with John Wick. If, like me, you're a fan of the John Wick movies and you're curious as to how this all lines up in terms of timelines, just know that in the Payday universe, all this stuff happens before the first John Wick movie. I'm not sure if the events of the Payday games are canon in the John Wick universe, though Payday is referenced in Chapter 2. This heist has us helping out Sharon, the manager of the Continental Hotel, after he got into a bad run-in with another gang. One cool thing is they actually got Lance Reddick, who played the character in the movies, to play the character in the game. Alright, so I'm gonna leave behind some loot again, but I promise this is the last time. I'm just not prepared to move 4 bags of weapons through an endless assault with almost no cover. In the end, I didn't make it out with any extra loot, but I will include the 4 bags of weapons we left behind in the final tally. Yacht Heist. In the second part of the crossover, we have a stealth-only heist. Remember how we helped Bob McKendrick get elected? Well, turns out he caved to political pressure and massively upped the police presence in DC. He's becoming too annoying for his own good, so we decided to mess with him by stealing a bunch of money from his campaign fundraiser. Fast forward a bit and we made it out with 8 bags of money and 7 artifacts. Undercover. So this heist is every libertarian's wet dream. Here we're going to be robbing the IRS, or more accurately, a corrupt IRS agent who stole IRS things. This is basically the beat up and yell at a dude heist. Alright, it's not too much more interesting going on here, so let's fast forward. This heist has no additional loot. Slaughterhouse. Now we have another Payday the Heist remake. I don't know why, but I always thought this heist had a pretty neat aesthetic. I also think that from a design perspective, this heist is better in the first game than in the second, for the same reason I think that of the secret vault in First World Bank. That's because in the first game, you didn't have to move any bags. While it is true that in the first game, you'll have to make multiple trips if you want to get all the loot, you're not slowed down by it, so it's really not that much of a punishment. In Payday 2 and the death sentence difficulty, it's really hard to daisy chain all your loot bags because that's just asking for the cops to steal them. This pretty much forces you to take multiple trips with the loot on your back, and if there's one thing I love, it's taking heavy bags through sniper fire. That was sarcasm, by the way. Alright, let's fast forward a bit. We made it out with 10 bags of gold and 1 pig. Man, Vlad really does have a thing for animals. Beneath the Mountain. So this one's actually one of my favorite heists in the entire game. It does pretty much everything I like in a heist. It's like Hotline Miami, but better. There's just something about it that makes me really like the objectives and all the valuable, varied loot. Oh yeah, and we're doing this for Locke, a former Murky Water officer who hacked our systems and told us he wants to move against his former employer. Remember him, he'll be important later. This heist has 3 main parts: the getting in phase, the steal the really valuable stuff phase, and the escape phase. A nice touch is that there's still some slightly less valuable loot in the escape phase. Skipping ahead once again, we made it out with 1 masterpiece, 1 lost artifact, 1 master server, 1 prototype, 4 bags of gold, and 2 bags of money. Birth of Sky. This is a pretty neat example of a great heist that I just don't really like. I can't pinpoint exactly why I don't like it, but I think it's because of the general open area and the lack of additional loot. The idea is pretty simple. We take over a murky plane, drop some pallets of money, and then Locke comes over with his helicopter to come pick it up. And as a wise man once said, that's all I have to say about that. This heist has no bagged loot. Heat Street. Now we have what's probably my least favorite heist from the original game. Now don't get me wrong, it's still a pretty good heist, it's just not as good as the others. The idea is pretty simple. There's a guy we want to interrogate, so we have to find him, capture him, and bring him up to the escape. I'm skipping ahead again because I can see the end in sight. This heist has no additional bagged loot. Green Bridge. In this Payday the Heist remake, we assault a prison convoy so we can bust out a prisoner. So one of our crew members, Jiro, has been looking for his son for a long time, and apparently this guy that we're freeing has some intel that'll help him. It's kind of a shame because that storyline had some real potential, but they just never fleshed it out. They almost would have been better off just ignoring it rather than doing what they ended up doing. Oh yeah, and they added a goddamn armored truck as if I didn't already have to deal with enough of these things. Let's just skip to the end. We made it out with 4 bags of gold. Alaskan Deal. In this heist, Locke sets up a weapons deal between us and the Butcher, but he needs extra muscle. Oh no, he has betrayed us. Darn him. He didn't actually betray us, but we don't find that out until later. But yeah, all that aside, we do our thing, we steal some weapons, bada bing, bada boom. In the end, we made it out with 4 assault rifles and 4 bags of money. Diamond Heist. Here we have the only heist from the original game that could actually be properly stealthed. So basically, this guy has a lot of diamonds in his house and we want to steal said diamonds. I know I'm sounding pretty dismissive, and don't take that as an attack against this heist, I just really want to finish this video. There is one more thing that is worth mentioning about this heist. I ended up getting the extra vault spawn, which has the red diamond inside. This does not spawn every heist, so it's pretty lucky. When I was originally planning this video, I just kind of assumed that I wouldn't end up getting it, so I wasn't sure whether I was going to add it to the final loot tally or not. Well, I guess that answers that question. At the end of the day, we made it out with 8 bags of diamonds and 1 red diamond. Reservoir Dogs. Payday 2 seems to have a really weird thing with movie crossovers, doesn't it? I'm not complaining though. I really like this heist, and I really like the music. I mean, it should be playing right now unless I completely forget to edit it in later, but just listen to it. So this heist actually starts out on day 2 rather than day 1, and Locke is talking to us, Bane was captured, Locke's our friend now. Yeah, just kinda roll with it. So basically, here in day 2, we're collecting the loot we stole in day 1 so we can escape with it. At the end of the day, we made it out with 6 bags of diamonds. Alright, so now for day 2, or day 1, technically, yeah. We get ambushed, Mr. Pink gets shot, and we gotta steal some stuff. And I'm gonna skip through most of this heist, but just be aware that this is really fun. If you haven't played Payday 2 in a while, but liked it back in the day, I would highly recommend playing this heist. Oh yeah, and at the end of the day, Bane gets captured, but we don't really get any answers, so yeah. At the end of the day, we made it out with a total of 10 bags of diamonds, 9 bags of jewelry, and 1 bag of money. Brooklyn Bank. Here we have the very last bank heist of Payday 2. So apparently Bane was searching around for years for some supernatural conspiracy stuff. Now obviously we're still looking for Bane, but we don't really have any leads at the moment, so in the meantime we're going to continue his search. Apparently there was an artifact built in the foundation of this bank, and we want it. And I mean, it's also a bank, so money. This is a really fun heist, but it is an absolute nightmare to get all this loot out solo. There are a lot of snipers. At the end of the day, we made it out with 10 bags of money and 14 bags of gold. Breakin' Feds. Alright, so here's where shit starts to get a little weird. Apparently Bane was abducted by this secret organization known as the Kataru. We intercepted some communications with the FBI saying that the Kataru are willing to trade Bane's body for an artifact they have. Oh, and it turns out that Murky Water is actually a front for the Kataru. Additionally, the Elephant, remember him? Well, he was arrested on false charges, instead of, arresting him for the actual illegal shit he did. So we end up breaking into Commissioner Solomon Garrett's office and stealing a keycard. And then it's just a quick trip to the evidence locker to find another Illuminati box. And money. Can't forget about the money. At the end of the day, we made it out with 1 Illuminati box and 5 bags of money. Henry's Rock. You know what Payday 2 needs? More Illuminati boxes. Yeah, we're gonna go steal 2 more from a Murky Water facility. This heist is just staggeringly mediocre. It doesn't have the fun factor of heists like Hotline Miami or Beneath the Mountain, but it's also not so bad that it's fun, like Car Shop. I mean, at least it has story significance. Oh, and I should probably mention, this was my first time completing this heist all the way through, as you'll see from the myriad of achievement pop-ups at the end. So I don't know for sure if I actually got all of the additional loot spawns. I think I did, but I can't be sure. Oh hey look, it's Jiro's son. Yeah, he's just kinda there. At the end of the day, we made it out with 2 Illuminati boxes and 5 artifacts. Shacklethorn Auction. So this is actually a really neat heist, and much like I can't figure out why I don't like Birth of Sky, I can't figure out why I like this one so much. Alright, so story-wise, the Kataru are doing some real Armageddon tier shit, and we have another weird thing that we need to steal from this rich people auction. And of course, because it's a rich people auction, there's a ton of other stuff to steal as well. When I was recording this video footage, I was kinda burned out by the time I got to this heist, but I found I really enjoyed myself on this one. I can definitely see myself going back and playing this heist once in a while. At the end of the day, we made it out with the Black Tablet and 35 artifacts. Hell's Island. Alright, so Locke found out that Bane is actually still alive, but he's being held in a Kataru prison, so we have to go bust him out. Oh, and also the dentist is working with the Kataru, but that doesn't really matter right now. To get Bane out, we basically have to play a Left 4 Dead mission. Yeah, so this heist could actually be really cool, however its design is just not Payday. The linearity of this heist just doesn't mesh well with the core mechanics of Payday 2. Oh look, Bane killed Jiro's son. That was kinda anticlimactic. So Bane collapses and Locke carries him out. So yeah, this heist actually has no loot whatsoever. But as it turns out, the Kataru infected Bane with a virus. You know, It's that same virus we got all those years ago. Doodaloo 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 doodaloo. That's my flashback sound. No mercy. So this is probably my favorite heist from the original game. You can sorta kinda stealth this heist, but I just don't even want to try it solo, so I just went loud right from the get-go. Basically, we have to steal some blood from a patient who's infected with a virus. In the original game, this heist was non-canon, and the virus was meant to be the virus that started the zombie apocalypse in the Left 4 Dead series. In Payday 2, this is the virus the Kataru infected Bane with. This heist is also pretty cool because it features a mechanic that's not seen anywhere else in the series. The vials of blood you gather will actually break if you go down while holding them. This made me actually change my entire strategy. In pretty much every other heist, I would just power through objectives using the Swan Song skill. I couldn't really do that here because I needed to prevent myself from going down in the first place. I kinda wish Overkill did more things like this throughout the entire series. Ah well, maybe we'll see it in Payday 3, which they did confirm by the way. They are working on it. This heist features no additional loot. The White House. Before I get started talking about this heist, I should probably mention that I'm not going to be doing the Payday 2 secret in this video. There are several reasons for this. First of all, I haven't actually completed their prerequisites for the secret yet. Secondly, it requires 4 people. And lastly, you don't even get any extra loot. So here's the deal. The virus is killing Bane and there is no cure. However, he wanted to make sure we were taken care of, so he hatched a plan for the biggest heist of them all. The history buffs among you will know that at the end of the American Civil War, President Lincoln pardoned almost every single Confederate soldier. Well, as it turns out, that was a pretty big undertaking, and it's not something they could realistically do one at a time. So these pardons ended up being mass-produced and the recipient's name was left blank. I'm sure you can see where this is going. We want to steal those pardons to give us full immunity. I gotta say, as hyped up as this heist was, it wasn't that good. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't very good. So in the end, the virus ends up killing Bane and the crew retires. If that feels like it leaves a lot of unanswered questions, go do the secret. This heist features no additional loot. And because that was the last heist in the game, I gotta go do some math. Alright, and now the moment you've all been waiting for, the final tally. In terms of standard loot, we've got 221 bags of money plus 26 bags of mission money, 142 bags of gold plus 10 bags of mission gold, 35 bags of jewelry plus 32 bags of mission jewelry, 48 bags of cocaine plus 4 mission cocaine, 18 diamonds, 36 assault rifles, 5 paintings plus 6 mission paintings, 61 artifacts, and 18 bags of meth. When it comes to mission-specific loot, we got the following, and no, I did not make a graphic for this. 1 server, 4 armor pieces, 2 Shadow Raid artifacts, 3 turret parts, 20 shells, 3 bags of pure cocaine, 8 warheads, 12 safes, 1 goat, 8 bags of evidence, 1 The Diamond, 4 Illuminati boxes, though I'm pretty sure we stole one of them twice, 4 bags of mini-meth, 1 Almir's Toast, 4 bags of cloaker cocaine, 8 bomb parts, 2 EMPs, 14 murky weapons, 2 master servers, 1 car, 1 BCI helmet, 1 giant toothbrush, 1 pig, 1 masterpiece, 1 lost artifact, 1 prototype, 1 red diamond, and 1 black tablet. Altogether, our bag loot totaled to $428,318,650. And yes, that does include the bags I missed. When we add up all the contract payments we got, we get $323,750,500. When we add up all the instant cash I got, including the ATMs I missed, we get $32,210,092. Please note that this was done with the Aced Chameleon skill, which gave me an extra 30% instant cash. When we add all that together, we get $784,279,242. Alright guys, I know this was a longer video than normal, a lot longer, but if you made it this far, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that you're willing to take time out of your day to watch my stupid ass play video games. I usually don't go on too much about this kind of stuff because this is a hobby to me, but this video took me over 60 hours to make, so if you enjoyed it, please consider leaving a like, a comment, and a subscription if you want to see more. But as always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Can you make my world